The Trump campaign called the bill unconstitutional, but did not say if the president intends to sue. As president, how do you plan to make sure that these workers are trained to compete in a new, greener industry?
Because we will invest heavily.
The president also tuned in. He was active on Twitter throughout the day, tweeting clips and quotes from pundits before, during, and after the hearing. This is his second stop in California and a trio of visits that he's making. First stop was San Diego, today Los Angeles, and tomorrow San Francisco. So what's a caucus anyway? It's essentially a meeting in more than 1,600 different locations across the state. Friends and neighbors come together to physically stand in a corner and back their preferred candidate and to try to get others to join them. If a candidate doesn't reach 15%, those people have two choices. They can either rally behind a different candidate or they can leave altogether. Then there's a whole math equation that happens after this, and delegates are then allocated to those candidates. The crowd is cheering to candidate Elizabeth Warren, who they came to see speak only 48 hours before caucus night. Now, she had just gotten into town today because yesterday she was actually in D.C. Caucus goers are just streaming in right now. People are excited. There's actually a couple right behind me that brought out their lawn chairs, so we might be in for a long evening. I'll take you guys along. We have a Mike Bloomberg sign right over here, as you can see. They've set it up kind of against this little whiteboard area. And if you follow me over here, you can see we have the Elizabeth Warren corner right over here. Hey everyone, Morgan Stevens here for Annenberg Media. We are here at the Bernie Sanders Bon Iver concert in Clive, Iowa. There's a few thousand people here right now, all mostly Bernie Sanders supporters, but we've been talking to people, seeing what issues bring them out, and she's going to be one of the youngest women to ever serve in Congress. So I think that that's super interesting that we're seeing a lot of these first. There's everything from jewelry to skincare, candles, things for kids. We are hosting a watch party for the third Democratic debate in the presidential race. Now, this should be interesting because we're going to see Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren square off for the first time. Annenberg Media just arrived on the scene at Henry Mayo Hospital in Santa Clarita. This is where students were taken to after they sustained gunshot wounds at the mass shooting this morning at Saugus High School. U.S. Ambassador to the European Union Gordon Sondland testified today to a full room on Capitol Hill. But will it make a dent in Americans' opinions on impeachment? The latest polling shows a complicated story of how Americans feel about it. According to a new ABC Ipsos poll, 70% think President Trump's actions tied to Ukraine were wrong, but only 50% think he should be impeached because of it. A USC professor says an impeachment conviction is unlikely.
The basic partisan lines are holding in this. The people who were part of Trump's base, they're going to stick with him. The people who are anti-Trump are going to still be against him. The outcome is already fairly well determined that the House will impeach him and the Senate will not convict him.
A new NPR PBS poll shows 2/3 of Americans said they cannot imagine anything surfacing during the inquiry that would change their opinion.
I think we're past the point of filter bubbles. We're now in the point of just armored containers, where nothing gets in and nothing gets out.
The impeachment inquiry doesn't look like it's affecting Trump's approval rating either. Gallup asked Americans how they felt about Donald Trump's handling of his job as president. As you can see here in September, his approval rating was around 43%. In October, however, after the impeachment inquiry was announced by Speaker Pelosi, it dipped to around 41%. In November, it went back up, though, 3 percentage points to 44%. These numbers might shift as the hearings continue.
Please rise and raise your right hand. I will begin by swearing you in.
What we know is most Americans are paying attention. What we don't know is if it will change their minds. For Annenberg Media, I'm Morgan Stevens.
People need to understand there is a way to act and actually do something, and that is through mass protest. And that's what this Out Now movement is. You know, calling for Hong Kong-style protests, mass sustained nonviolent protests to demand the whole regime must go now.
America is no stranger to political unrest. The country has lived through slavery, civil war, the Jim Crow era, and Vietnam. But since 2016, America is facing another defining moment. And with it, a new wave of political violence has emerged. This is Refuse Fascism, an anti-Trump group that formed after the 2016 election. They believe that if you want to see change, you can't sit on the sidelines as a spectator. Today, the group is protesting Donald Trump Jr. at UCLA.
So we're actually trying to make ourselves very visual here, right? For anybody, Trump Jr. is going to be like, just right out here. And anybody who's passing by, right? There's a lot of really important people that came out today and made it a point to be out here today, right? To protest Trump Jr. But then there's other people that are walking around that actually need to be challenged, right? As they're walking by and they're seeing, what is this, right? With these out now signs, with this banner that was made in MacArthur Park yesterday, right? Different people actually like coming together from different backgrounds, different perspectives with the recognition of what these people actually pose, right? The danger.
Refuse Fascism's mission is a call to action with one goal: remove the Trump administration from office. The group argues that Donald Trump is a fascist who is steadily turning America into an authoritarian country unless people do something to stop it.
If it was Obama, they would not be protesting right now, and that's the problem. Why are you guys anti-American? Get out of my country!
A lot is at stake when the left and right come face to face in the battle of ideologies, with only the police and a small barricade keeping each side from clashing.
Administrators! Collaborators! The physical manifestation of trigger, right here.
It seems a little bit more heightened right now. We're about an hour in. Still no violence, no confrontations, but a little bit of back and forth between the groups happening right behind me.
Demand that these fascists that are in the White House, that are unleashing these thugs in the streets like the ones right behind me.
As a far-left faction, Refuse Fascism shares a similar ideology as Antifa. But there's a big difference they want people to know. Instead of a by any means necessary approach to combating fascism, they advocate peaceful demonstrations and nonviolence.
So this is something to be more, we were aiming to be way more inclusive and more joyous. And to be that striking, that what I was talking about earlier, that difference between their hate and their violence usually, and like what we're actually here for, and that's with humanity, standing with the people of the world.
Just recently, a group of Trump supporters tried to come into the protest, and police approached them. They told them that they didn't want them in this area, they wanted to avoid confrontation, and they are just leaving right now. So still peaceful, their tensions are high, people are voicing their concerns. Emotions run high for both groups, and in these volatile times, a book tour for the president's son has the potential to turn violent. Today, the protest was peaceful, but the fight continues for Refuse Fascism and also for those on the other side. For Annenberg Media, I'm Morgan Stevens. California will determine the fate of 53 members of Congress on Tuesday, and 8 of those races are highly competitive and could go either way. Today, we'll dive into one of the most talked about policies in the 2020 election, health care. What does Medicare for All actually mean, and what's a public option? How do the candidates plan on achieving their health care plans, and what will it cost Americans? We'll discuss all of this today on The Ballot Box. The political landscape is changing for candidates and voters. Each episode here on The Ballot Box will keep you up to speed on the latest political debates and the most pressing policy topics. Today, ideology in the Democratic Party. Gun violence and mass shootings have become increasingly common in the U.S. Candidates like Beto O'Rourke have made gun reform a main focus of his campaign, and others have rallied behind similar policy ideas.
President Trump doesn't make a deal with President Xi and tariffs are actually raised. How will that impact American manufacturers?
Well, what's happened so far is that the tariffs that we've put in place have been very carefully designed to put maximum pressure on China.
And to listen to political experts from the UNRWA Institute of Politics weigh in on the race. Here's what we have so far. As of 5:25, Democrat Gil Cisneros has the largest financial advantage. He's raised nearly $4.5 million more than his opponent, Young-Oh Kim. The California DMV is under fire after registering 1,500 people to vote who aren't eligible because they aren't U.S. citizens. It's the first cannabis cafe to open in the nation. There's been a line outside the door since 2 a.m. this morning, and as you can see, there are still people waiting to get in.